It is tempting to say I know, but I don't know. About a year ago when I started running, I knew a lot more about the inner workings of city council than I know today. All I really figured out is how little I do know. And I've had discussions with people on both sides. It's a legal question, it's a planning question, and I got to say up front, I don't know. I'm actually having lunch with Alan Settle. I'll ask him on Friday, and I'll give one answer. And I've talked to the Planning Commission people, and they give me another answer, and I'm still trying to sort it out. It would be hubris for me at this point to say I know, because I don't.
I too am not an aviation consultant or expert. However, I do know that the city has done a lot of work to try to evaluate and address this issue by bringing experts to the table to look at the needs of our safety zone. And airports are governed by two primary decision-making bodies. There's the Caltrans Aviation Handbook that sets standards as to how safety zones are set, and then there's also some federal standards as well. And what the city has done is brought forward a team of experts to evaluate what those handbooks would require of our safety zone. And my understanding is that what the city has proposed in their override is to meet the Caltrans handbook standards and the standards proposed, or standards set by the Federal Aviation Administration. And so we look forward to hearing more from our legal team at the city as to whether or not that is the true fact of the matter. But if it is, I support the city in overriding the airport land use plan and empowering our city to develop the projects necessary in that part of town.
I have a little bit of concern with the safety zone in this area. It wasn't long ago that on Granada Drive, there was a small aircraft that actually went down in an area that was considered to be safe. I think a little bit more reconsideration and evaluation on the matter needs to be done. I by no means am a professional with any of that, but there are professionals out there, and I think that they need to attend to the situation.
I think the Airport Land Use Commission, you know, they're basically doing what they're tasked to do, right? They're focusing on the airport, the safety concerns, and I think that that's what we should expect them to do. They're coming a little bit on the restrictive side compared to what the city wants to accomplish. But I do think that, having said that, we really need to focus on what the city's needs are in the coming years, and if that's the most appropriate place to have workforce housing, energy-efficient housing developments, any developments planned for job and business growth, I think that that it will trump and it should trump that. I'm from Santa Monica. I was raised right underneath the Santa Monica Airport. There's houses right up there. Every once in a while, a plane would crash on the street and land on a car, and very rarely did people get killed, but of course that's always a possibility. But I would side with the city on that.
These are very technical issues, but I can tell you from working on planning commissions, both the city and county, for many years, we have been batting our heads against the Airport Land Use Commission, and while I'm not an expert, I have become a lay expert as much as a person can be. I am one of the city's liaisons to the Airport Land Use Commission, and I've had meetings with the city staff and members of the commission. So I do feel like I have some pretty good knowledge. I think it's very important to understand that we are not talking about the Airport Land Use Commission's drawing of its safety zones, the crash zones. That is not where we disagree. In fact, the city agrees with the Airport Land Use Commission on its first 4 layers of lines around the airport, which include its safety zones. Where we are disagreeing is on the noise lines. And right now, the commission is drawing lines that have no basis on data or fact or reality. That is really what is going on here, a simple disagreement over some big noise lines. We need to take away the airport. Yes, we need to take away the Airport Land Use Commission's insistence on doing our land use and take it back for ourselves.
The Airport Land Use Commission, I don't think, has been as forthcoming as they might on what data they're basing their zones, as Carlin mentioned. But I am more inclined to err on the side of caution. I was living in San Diego, attending San Diego State in 1978 when a PSA 737 was struck by a small general aviation aircraft and crashed about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the apartment that I was living in. 150 odd people were killed in that crash. In the mid-1980s, I had moved up to Cerritos. I was working full-time with the National Guard up there, and a Aeromexico DC-9 was struck by another small general aviation aircraft on its circuitous approach into LAX, and it crashed in a residential neighborhood, as did that previous one, and I think about 90 to 100 people were killed in that. I would like to have a lot more information from the Airport Land Use Commission on what they are basing their safety zones, noise zones on before I'd be able to commit on that. But I'm inclined to support probably the city, unless it's just noise zones.
We've only had one major airplane crash, and that landed at the Delidio Ranch before it was being considered for mixed-use housing and high-density housing. There's reasons for having these protected zones, and unfortunately it conflicts with our developers' ideas of how they can cram more housing in around that airport. We need to be giving some more respect to the uses of the airport, but we should be placing our housing plans in areas safer and not being so dense in like the Margarita Ranch development area. That's being overdone, I think.
Thank you. Hi, well, I'm the other member of the subcommittee that's been dealing with the Airport Land Use Commission, and I also was appointed to do the same thing in the year 2000 when I was on the City Council the last time. It is very frustrating. The reason that the Airport Land Use Commission is not being forthcoming about its data is it doesn't have any. It's never done these studies that underlie. That's why the city went ahead and hired an expert to do the studies, and here's the main issue. The main issue is, are we going to be able to build housing, workforce housing, and maintain our density, the same density we have in the rest of the city, in the annexation areas. The Airport Land Use Commission wants one house per 5 acres in the noise zones. No other Airport Land Use Commission in the whole state tries to control land use through the noise zones. All you do is do an navigation easement, say there's going to be noise if you build there, and that's it. They're trying to prevent us from developing in a dense urban way. They want us to have little ranchettes and like that. So I'm definitely in favor of asserting our thank you, Jan. constitutional right to overrule them.